Start that recording. Chokri, what's up? Good to see you, man. Oh no, I just wiggled a window and closed everything. Hang on here. That's not how we roll. Let me see which window this all opens up into next. All right, cool. Nice. Okay. That is not what we want. Leave that. Yep, cool. Don't be nervous. Be excited. Yeah. Don't be sad. Go get a tattoo. Don't be sad. Go get a tattoo. Okay. We're diving right in. So this one is from Martin. It's like, hey, Den, here's a block out of the new environment I'm working on based on this concept. I should probably look at that. Matching it pretty closely so far. Don't be sad, go do your UVs. Don't be sad, go do your UVs. I'd like to hear some general critique. Maybe also what you would change in the environment to concept, different composition, lighting, colors. Would love to hear it. Hey, thanks, man. Tristan, 35 months. That's insane. Now I'm sad. Why? Because you haven't done your UVs yet? Okay. So I don't know what you're planning on doing as far as like if you want to like animate the camera or move things around, but I'm just gonna get a little lazier here. There we go. But if you would like to move the camera, I think getting some more depth behind your into the composition would be good. So let's bring this in here if we can. Us and copying and pasting is not the best for whatever reason. I'm not sure why that is. There we go. But yeah, when you look at the image, right? Like the focus is here. Let's get a different color going on here. Something friendly. Your focus is here. It's the building, right? Then you have this bridge. You've got the tree, you've got this element here, and then all these elements in the back. I think taking these trees in the back and really like spreading them out is going to help with the getting that depth if you have like a camera pan or any slight movement of a GIF or video. And then continuing to take that further with everything. So think about the building being the focus, right? And then you have the tree. Actually, let's do this with white. So that's your focus, right? And then let's bring this down a little bit. Then you've got this guy, and I would argue this element here, and maybe these ones. These three I just marked, like this and the trees on the side here. Those are all kind of in their own. I just even need to do that. Okay. And then you have these elements. So you have this one here, which actually let's make this even quite a bit darker. This element here, and maybe even this element. And then we can't go wider than white, so we're gonna go red because that makes sense, right? And the elements back here, thinking about separating all of those out and getting the maximum depth so that each one of these are in their own plane, and then shifting your focal, your FOV on the lens to bring it all into the shot again will help with the parallaxing, right? Because you want these guys, like when you start moving the camera, this moves the least, this moves a little bit more, and then these move the most. And it'll happen the same with the trees in the back if you have that depth in those trees as well. So thinking about that for your sequence, I think is probably one of the more important things. The other thing I guess I should say is like when you're looking at a concept, it becomes concepts they can become very flat, especially when you're viewing them in not a 3D way, right? They're gonna just kind of flatten out, and how you perceive things and where they're at in distance can kind of feel the same. Like if we take this image and we paste, nice. Okay, hang on here. There we go. Okay, so this one's further than this one, right? That one's further back, but they're like almost the same height. So this one's actually smaller or something. But yeah, separating your foreground, midground, and background is always a good idea, especially if you want to do any camera movements or get a sense of the space. This actually goes much further back than we think it does, even though it's quite flat, right? Anywho, I need to change this thing really quick here. But yeah, hopefully that makes sense. The bridge, I don't mind the bridge and where it's at. It's just make sure it feels like it goes further back in space. Yeah, and the lamps being different sizes, I mean, I would probably stick with 2 sizes and leave it at that, and then just from there move forward. Oh yeah, I need to hang on here. It's gonna go to the camera and deactivate and activate again. There we go. There we go. Okay. Other than that, I think the overall it looks like the blocking out is pretty spot on. With with concepts like you were saying with the height and size differences of these lanterns, for example, or these little lamps, I would think about it like it would be in real life. Those are going to be the same size. Unless there are actually smaller ones, but in that case I wouldn't, design wise you wouldn't have smaller ones around the bridge, right? So in the concept that might just be a skewing effect that occurs. Melissa, how you doing? Good to see you. Yeah, let's keep moving on. Hopefully that was helpful. I think mainly it's composition. When you look at the concept, it's, I mean, all we should be looking at right now is composition. If you want to look at where lights are at and like trying to get these areas to be lit a little bit more to the, because there's a highlight here, there's a little bit of a highlight on the top of this bridge, and maybe blocking out some of the volume that the roots will take up could help. But I think I think it might be a little bit early for anything else other than like blocking out of light locations for framing, and then also the depth that you're missing out on currently. If anything were to change, I would grab this rock and just bring it really close to the camera, so that way you're getting that kind of parallax. And once you do that, you'll start to feel like other areas could use some more. So, yeah. Okay. Up next is Quad Z or Z Quad. It's a weird way of saying that. This is pretty interesting. I saw some of the other previous screenshots that you had posted in critiques earlier, and I will say that I like the placement of the rocks more, and I agree with the comment on shadows, right? Like the areas being just way too dark. There seems to be a consistency with the size of rocks on the ground here, and I would suggest when you look at, let's see if we can't get we don't even need to have the high res of this. I think it's fine. I'll just copy this, bring this into Photoshop here. Right now you're looking at this image, right? And I think the things that stick out to me is, so you have, we'll just do this. You have an element here, and we'll just squiggle it like that. You have another element that's kind of separating itself like that. The focus is here, and I see a line here that feels like it continues like this, right? Now I would say these are large elements, right? And the background area, this is background, and this is your focal, your area of focus. But think about how rocks kind of break down. What's up, CR? How you doing? You're gonna have these large rock formations, and then the breakdown is usually what they call a scree, is this kind of rock buildup at the bottom here. So usually there's a the breaking down of a rock and it turning into sand essentially. Katsu, I want to say Katsu, Katkitsu. How you doing? You're gonna want something before you transition to this type of rock, and then even in here, I would say flattening this area out and doing only a few large rocks with the occasional big one, right? Whereas here you're gonna want a medium-sized type rock, maybe another one, you know, throughout this space, and then you transition to like a medium small, and then into the small, so you get that transition into the walkable space. Jonas, what's up? Oh God, tabs. Thanks. Rubble transitioning from Paul. You feel free to link that timestamp as well if you're so hardcore about it. If you feel driven, I should say. The other thing I would say is, while this focal point is interesting, it does look like there's just a light inside of the rocks. Like it doesn't feel like an entrance to anything. It doesn't feel like it's like, oh, someone is burning a campfire that burns red. Is the feeling I get, right? Or some mining reference. So if you're doing mining reference and the idea is mining, then I need to know that this is mining. You know what I mean? Nothing is telling me it's mining other than I'm just seeing rocks, right? So it's supposed to be an entrance. Yeah, I think if you build up an entrance more, right? Or make it look like a, you know, if it's a large opening, that's going to be pretty good. Now, I would hint at more of the scene without actually making more of the scene. You could do this, where like this rock formation kind of ends here, and then this one ends here, and then you just kind of you step the rock formations into the distance until like you can't really make it out because of the fog, right? The character is quite interesting, and it's just more about the logics of the space. I would be curious to see if there's any other elements that you're planning on adding in here. You know, like what would you say? Like if there's any plants, or if this is all in a cave. I don't know if this is all in a cave. Oh man, Paul with the link. But I mean, this guy with his hand, you could have his arm up with the canary cage, right? If you really wanted to push that. But yeah, just some food for thought, transitioning into the space and kind of helping you like frame the overall image around the entrance. It's kind of like that this scree effect, right? Where everything is kind of doing this. Even, you know, you have this back here, that's gonna curve, and this one will curve too, and you know, it'll just kind of keep happening. It's great for composition. You like food that makes you dumb? Like, what does that mean? Let's see what we got next. Vince. This is looking interesting. So I think here the first thing I was attracted to was the or like when I say attracted to, the first thing that pointed out to me like, oh, this should be looked at. Yes, thanks for the link, Paul. Is the floor. So like if we look at the floor here, the floor kind of made me go, okay, what's the scale of this? Like what? The grass is kind of helping, but these stones are huge, right? The grass is kind of helping bring the scale back in. Um, the size of the wheel versus the door size versus like this sign being as low as it is, like you would expect the sign to be much higher. I think putting a character in here will help you lock that stuff in really quickly, but the scale feels kind of off everywhere. Like these doors feel very different from each other. Width wise and height wise are kind of the same. Usually when a building crosses over the top like this, like you see this one here. Let's see if I can mark this out better. It's connected to the next building over, right? Usually the building on one side versus the other side are going to be running the same height, and maybe they are. It's pretty rare for the building to stop halfway through the connection. Like this roof should continue, continue this way, right? And that whole wall should continue cutting the roof, if we're gonna be really particular about it, right? And mainly that's so that you have a bit more of like the logic and the support of everything. It looks like there's still some blocking out going on, so it's not too much to comment on, but just make sure that these areas have enough depth for people to put stuff on them if you want to put like little plants and pots and stuff like that. And yeah, I really feel like this door is just like halfway in the ground right now. Ghost, your comment on that scene looking very Shadow of Mordor, it kind of does, doesn't it? But yeah, I would look at the scale of these stones or how high they're sticking up. So it feels very busy. It could be less information on the stones, maybe could help like kind of tone that down a bit. One thing I like that's going on is the ground is lighter than the walls. The walls feel very dark to me right now, and maybe it's just a tileable. Beta Razor, what's up, man? How you doing? Yes, it's that time. One thing you might be able to do is if we delete this, and let's look at like colors, right? I'm just gonna eyedrop in here for ranges that I'm fancying. So let's say you've got the ground is this value. I mean, shoot, let's even make it black and white. So when you look at it in black and white, it's very similar in value, right? So if you eyedrop in here in direct light, it's more in this range. If you're going into the shadow, let's find a brighter in the shadow area. In the shadow is about that value. If you look at your walls in light, right? And then in shadow, and then rooftops. So your rooftops are similar in value to your darker walls and the darker floor. It is brighter than the floor, but darker than in light, right? So if you imagine, that the rooftop here is in light and this is in light, and you look at the value difference between these two, that roof is quite dark, right? So I think if you were to take your rooftops and kind of give them the same value as the ground, you'd probably get some pretty nice results. Of course, this is going to be me just skewing information, but you can see what that's doing already just in the terrible mask I made. And it helps separate out your scene so much more, right? And you can grab this edge here and we do this. And gives you a sense of understanding of the space. And you see more information. Like, look at that. Like, there's so much more going on. Tobias, what's up, man? How you doing? Good evening. There's so much information I didn't even realize was happening in there. So you can see, like, getting that information to pop is really important. There's actually quite a bit of detail going on in the rooftops. So being able to show that off, even like the caps here, we just do a little bit more of this. You can see how it makes all the details pop, right? We just bring this on top here. You can see the difference. Gives you more understanding overall. Yeah, that makes sense. Thought it was a bit more of a lighting issue, but maybe brightening those. Yeah, if you post an albedo only, I bet a lot of this stuff is very dark. I see a lack of chimneys. I find your lack of chimneys disturbing. Let's see if there's what else we got posted in here from you. Glowing handles on the doors are just not done, unwrapped properly, but crit overall. So the only other thing I would say is, what's the focus? What's the focal point here? It looks like there's the idea of a celebration or some type of festival is going on, and I think making sure that that's clear with like the entrance to a bar or a tavern, right? A place that everyone's wanting to go to. Where's are horses allowed in here? And if so, like where do you tie them up, right? All those smaller details that help you understand and make a place have that sense of more than what you're seeing. Like, what's just outside the shot? Quad Z's talking about drunk people. Is there an area to the side where people just like puke, and that's everyone pukes there? Drunk horses. Witcher vibes. Yeah, go ahead and I would say take another pass on like thinking about the narrative and the storytelling, because without knowing what these buildings are, it's that side street you run through in order to get to the next important place. It's not an area that a player stops and looks at. Go ahead, Tobias. We're at 20, but I mean, let's go. Why not? Get it in there and let's see if we get to it. There is one more image. Yeah, see, it's especially visible here. See how big the tiles are, or the stones on the ground? They feel like if this was a tileable material, it feels like it's tiling about 2 times less than it needs to tile more, right? These need to be about half the size or a quarter of the size of what they are. And when you do that, you'll notice it's very busy. And the nice part about these being modeled is then you can tell stories with them. You can dip some of them down into the mud and then let the terrain and mud materials kind of take over. I think that'll help a lot, because there's a lot of information here and we're just not seeing it right now. Like, why are these lighter than this? Those are the questions I have, and how the wall being as dark as it is. Bronze gear, dude. The dental chair continues. Let's go. All right, so do I have? No, I can have that off. Oh my god, there's 100. Oh god, I need to look at those. This is looking pretty good, man. Lots of storytelling going on. My whole left side's blushing really hard. Dude, I can't help it. You guys are so attractive. This is looking great, man. Is there a I'm just gonna do a Control F and type in normal. Yeah, there it is. As well as so what's left? Essentially making the metal match the quality of my other materials, as well as getting a detail normal for my leather set up in the engine. So to talk on the detail normal topic, because I feel like I've been talking about it a lot lately. So that's one of the things you have left. I would argue, or I would love to say, and I'm gonna say it. Are you ready? No. So this asset looks great, and I bet you would have finished it already if you put your detail normals on earlier, because you would have ended up spending less time on some details that you'll find out you don't even need. Right now it looks pretty good. I mean, it's not pretty good. It looks real good. When you put detail normals on that, you're going to lose a lot of information, but gain other information, consistent information, I guess I should say. So make sure when you add that the detail normals, that you add a strength control on it or a mask to wear it down. Like in the recent video I post on YouTube, gonna need some ice now. You the details here, right, in the detail normal will probably be softer because of the amount of use. Maybe even on these areas, the detail normal will be maybe half strength or 75% of what it is right now. And with the tears, you're gonna need a mask because the detail normals, you don't want it to show in the tear areas, right? But if you have that mask, you should think about where it wears down and the detail of that surface would soften. I didn't have to go that hard. It wasn't that hard. Well, it's not a really crispy mask. It'll automatically become crispy. All that's missing is blood. Polygon wants blood. Bring him the blood. It's not missing too much. And that detail normal, don't worry about it being crispy. Worry about it being accurate, right? The detail normal itself. Because when you tile it up, it's going to be detailed quite a bit already. Yeah, the color of the leather is feeling pretty good. You'll notice too that when you get the detail normal on there, it's going to change the way you're perceiving your roughness. So you're probably going to need to take another pass on how bright or dark your roughness is, how rough or not rough your surfaces are. Let's see. Some of the other stuff I would comment on is maybe like in the metal areas, there seems to be like a cloudy material. And I think you probably want to put that in the roughness. Yeah, Paul, I think you linked me it. Did you try it out? Did you try that pack out? So when I was saying add detail normals, I would say get detail normals for the leather, get a detail normal for the metal, and a detail normal for the wood, right? But yeah, this is looking ace. It's like, that's not how you use earphones. Oh, wait a minute. I can feel my teeth now. Very nice, though. This is really shaping up to be a very strong asset in your portfolio. Let me see. I'm just going to take a quick... I want to look here. Holy, that's a blog. Yeah, man. That's going to be a great addition to your portfolio. Great addition. It's going to level you up a bit, I think. Anyways, let's Arc. Let's check out Arc stuff. So here's my first environment in Unreal. I'd like some composition, lighting, and color critiques. I love that you guys are giving me a direction to go in. Yo, wait. So this is your first environment in Unreal? Where's the door for me to quit? This is pretty cool, man. So is this like our rib cages? Stylized UE4 environment buried. Oh, working with someone as well? And then you colored over it? That's super cool. This is nice. All right, right off the bat, when I look at the trees, I think the bottom part being exaggerated as much as it has been is going too far. Like, I guess the idea is this is an older one than this, right? What I would suggest for, like, if you want that kind of gnarled plant or gnarled tree, like old kind of beaten up but survived and grown. I would go for the same height or maybe taller, and then some bare spots. When you think about, when I say bare spots, not like teddy bear spots, but spots where branches have either broken off or have lost all of their leaves, and then had come back and become just an area that's of like a dead branch, right? And as you go further down the tree, you tend to see more dead branches like this. You see more dead branches at the bottom that have snapped off or been broken. Still attached to the tree, just stubby like these ones. So you want a full, maybe not happy tree, but a tree who's seen some stuff. You know what I mean? And the top of it can, I mean, it can be all the way up here, but it needs to be like, it needs to, gosh dang it. Gall darn it. I can't cuss. It, you know, it's gonna be tough to come back from that one. It can be a little dead at the top. That's okay. But I think shortening it out without it really looking beat up and destroyed is a little strange. And the fanning out of the bottom, I think, is the most intense part. Mushrooms. Hey, you can never go wrong with mushrooms. Well, you can, but we're not going to talk about that. We caught Melissa's attention. Mushrooms? Did someone say mushrooms? So these are really cool. This kind of like bone structure. I want to say it's bone. This is really nice. Virtual texturing. Oh yeah. Oh, you got the logic in there too. Look at that. That's quite advanced. That looks. Was this pretty fun to do? That was very nice. Man, look at that control. Oh yeah, dude. Man, virtual texturing is so useful. You can have the ground react to distance field as well. Actually, I don't know if you can do that on terrain, but if you had a distance field, you can have the grass despawn where the rock is as well. But I don't think you can do that with landscape. I like how you had built your assets and you were starting to build on it. It's creating this scene. And then there was a lot of it. You can see it right after everything gets placed. There's a ton of iteration and trying to figure out, what goes where, how to frame it best. I think if I had to say anything, we look at this image. I feel like you need to have the camera moving forward so we understand the depth more, and the side elements need to become a little bit more to the side, just so you can really focus in on. And those elements going to the side can come from the camera moving forward as well. But getting some depth of field and some separation and understanding of the scene is, I think, what's going to help the composition the best. Let's see here. I feel like right now, overall, I mean, it's very wow, I guess is what I should say. Like this shot is pretty strong, and I think moving the elements on the left and right a little wider would help. Yeah, but Melissa, I'll explain that in a minute here. Pretty nice scene. It is really that composition and being able to understand the space, and everything is very uniformly lit right now. I think that's the issue. There are people negotiating on my watch about when I finish streaming. Aliens, gotta play Aliens, bro. Hmm. I would say everything has a very consistent brightness and darkness in the albedo as well. And I think depending on what you want us to focus on, I would really push those values up and down to try and separate those elements more. A good example of that is like you can see the grass on the tops of the bone feel pretty nice and fluffy, whereas the grass down here, the contrast in the albedo itself is really making the grass pop out. I'll be the judge of that. It's making the grass pop out a lot, right? And that's causing a lot of detail. I think if you want the grass to pop, instead of putting it in the albedo, maybe you could put it in the roughness as like a noise that comes by so that you can see the wind in the grass and it'll highlight the grass occasionally as it like wisps by. That way you remove some of the noise, but you add some unique fidelity and detail in brief moments. You'll see it in Jasmine's work a lot. If anyone can link Jasmine's portfolio, that would be super helpful. But yeah, really nice. Really nice. Okay, so real quick, I'll go off on the whole thanks Tobias. I'll go off on the virtual textures thing. So the best way to describe virtual textures. So this is your terrain, right? This is your landscape. You're painting materials down, and you can see when the rock kind of passes over, you'll see that it influences the material. So what is happening with virtual textures, or yeah, so what's happening with virtual textures? I'm trying to figure out how to explain this in my brain. Is these materials are, you place a volume on your landscape, and that volume is kind of like a cage, and it's baking to a texture in real time that you can bring in as a node and then map to your rock, for example. So for example, this rock, you can see the materials on it. It's line scanning the landscape material to the prop. Yes. It's kind of like baking it to a texture, and then you're mapping that texture to the object. Kind of like a giant decal, but not nearly as expensive, I think, in that sense. But yeah, it's yeah, kind of like that. Sounds confusing. It's not all that bad. There's some really good videos on YouTube that explain it in like 20 minutes and show you how to do it as well. There was one mentioned in chat, but I'm just gonna, I'll just link one. Here's one. They're called runtime virtual textures because they're happening at runtime. They're not being baked or anything like that, right? Okay, let's keep moving. We got 26 to go through, so Ghost doing some damage on Column monthly challenge. Awesome, dude. So happy to hear you're doing the monthly challenge. It's really cool to see people really getting into it. You know, I would like to know if it looks okay. I'm planning on reusing the column and rotating it every 90 degrees. Right. Okay. You know, if you separate out the base, you can rotate the column more than that, right? Like, because you'll be able to rotate it freely without worrying about this being square. But I mean, this looks pretty good as far as like you can rotate it and not see the damage here. I would just make a version that's not as damaged and one that's quite damaged and swap between those, unless you're trying to really keep prop count down. Because that, if you were to run around the scene, depending on if you plan on doing it like that, you don't want to have the same damage in every spot, right? I think that's why the damage is down here and here, but on the same side. That way you're getting the side view without any damage, right? Yeah, they're separate. All right, cool. Calder, how you doing? Good to see you. I'm curious why there's such large damage so high up. Usually those would happen during like maybe like a siege or something like that. Um, I would I would vote for larger damage at the bottom and smaller damage at the top, unless you have a completely, like, it's larger damage at the bottom, smaller at the top, and then have a version that's really like just shaved off, snapped in half, and that top piece is down here, separate for you to place. You will get the most reuse out of those three assets than trying to just do the one, because you can then tell more of a story or kind of show the structure of it. I would say otherwise the damage seems okay. This is really big, and I would expect to see maybe a line in here that shows like the segments of the stone, unless they actually carved out the entire thing in one piece. But yeah, I mean, looks pretty good to me. I would work on the bottom here. The shape language that's going on down here, I would check that with historical reference, if that's how you would describe that. It's a one piece column. All right. And just see the shapes that are down here and see if they match with the stuff you're looking at or the stuff you're trying to make. But yeah. If you make them separate, you can make an infinite number of variations. It's true. You can stack them completely incorrect. Okay. Futurists. Yo, today's the day. Posting in critiques gets you the community tag. Same with Arc. All right, let's keep trucking along here. Definitely New York subways. Also New York. If there's anyone in chat from New York or anyone who knows anyone in New York, hopefully they are doing all right. Some pretty intense stuff in the news. The flash flooding and whatnot. And now we're looking at a subway. So you've never seen a subway station from New York this clean? It's pretty clean. This looks pretty cool. I would say the things that are breaking down for me is scale and like laser lines. So if we copy this and let's bring it into here, just delete all these. Paste to Rooney. Oh my gosh, it copied. Can you believe it? So laser lines, I'm going to lower the brightness of this so we can really see them. Let's go here. We'll go with like a, yeah, you can see a green. Cool. Okay, so laser lines, that's these hard edges. You'll see this edge up here is okay, but like when you look up here, you can obviously there's some stretching there, and we need to address that. I would see if you can find any reference that shows what could be up here. This is nice. With the extreme angle of this, you can see the tiling breakdown. So like trying to figure out how to break that up is going to be important. This type of detail is great. Really good sense of where people put stuff. You know what I mean? That's interesting. Didn't see that before. That looks super suspicious. And there's a phone there with it off the hook. It's it's a bomb. But scale wise, so right now the tile on the floor is feeling pretty flat, right? But then the size of these beams feels very large. And I know these beams are quite big. I would see if you can find out the dimensions of these. Because if you can figure that out, that'll help a load. Also figuring out where these signs are located at and positioned, as well as their scale. Because I know they like these to be pretty big. That way you can see the text and find your way quite easily. It's just the scale of everything feels a little large or off from one piece to the next. So I would try and match something, pick something and match to it. So let's say this trash can, right? Figure out, like, let's just say that that trash can's correct. Once you stick to that and then you see it's pretty accurate. Once you stick to that and you start measuring things, you might feel okay. These signs, is it pretty accurate for how often the signs are there? The stairs don't look like they have perspective. I mean, it's probably that image, because like if we open some of these up, like this one's pretty good as well. Leviath, how you doing? Good to see you. This stairs look steep, but I think they might be that steep in New York. Let's So one thing I would say about the graffiti is it's very strategically placed and not very noticeable, which is not very graffiti like. um but getting some variation on the floor grunge through roughness and or albedo adjustments, I think is what we're looking at. Let me see if I can. Oh man, come on. More. It's like we're gonna take too much time looking this up. Let me see if I can find a. So one of the aspects I think you're missing is material definition through roughness. One of the main reasons someone's work doesn't look right in 3D is because the materials don't feel right. So this is Brooklyn, right? But you can see on the ground there the roughness variation between different materials, the scale of stuff, just trying to understand like patterns, break up on the wall. Irregularities in the color because of damage to one of the tiles. The tiles have a little bit of a wobbliness to them. You can get that effect in the UVs if you want. You can wobble it a little bit in a few spots. But definitely looking at how things are painted. Like I can see there's paint on here. The material type of this and the ground just don't match right now, as far as like they don't feel like they're in the same scene. IRL wonk, is that what you call that? IRL wonk. Puddles, man, always something leaking. Always a puddle somewhere. It's like, what? Is someone gonna fix that? What is this? It's always leaking in here. But yeah. Fox. Yeah, break them lines. Yeah. But yeah, future. Dude, this is looking great though. Just gotta tune those details. And the amount of lights here, make sure that that's how it is in real life. Always try and match the reference, because like that many lights feels pretty intense to me. But it may be like that, you know? It's been a while since I looked at some New York subways. Ghost. I see. I see. That's the damage you're going for. Is that the scale? Is that the scale you're going for? That's really interesting. So the damage you did is perceived very differently, I think. Where is that one? That's a cool shot. Very flat. Yeah, you can see the repeating patterns. Man, it looks pretty nice here. That's the fountain name, huh? Oh yeah. Open in new tab. That's kind of a bad photo of it, but that's what we're looking at. Yeah, so there's some I mean, there's some damage to it, but I would keep it relatively light and really work on the wet aspects with the fountain itself, and then that gradient that's happening in the albedo. I'd just do some lighter damage. I would say you're probably pushing it a little over the top. But I think damage being this far up is totally fine now that I see the scale. I don't know how to say your name, but it's Vesevolod Yushev. That looks like a shoddy. Shoddy. I'm not sure what type of feedback you want on this, but the attention to detail and the logic of it looks pretty cool. Is DEFCON in here? How do you feel about this, DEFCON? I like the weight of the details. Like it's not overly high frequency. There's a lot of information going on in the front here, but there's a lot of area of rest in here. I think these really small ones, I would probably just lower the opacity of them so they're not perceived as needing to be very present. He gave some notes in the Discord. Nice. Nice. Because like if this was like the way this is drawn looks like how you would draw it if you were to give it to an artist to create in 3D, right? You want to see where all the information's at, how it's kind of formed, and what details kind of pop out. And I think lowering the opacity of these really small details and kind of pushing this type of detail here away, because this doesn't really seem like it's got a function other than it's trying to match the detail down here. This also doesn't really feel like it needs to be there because it's this, right? Um, yeah, because at the end of the day, you want the detail on any asset or a scene, or you want to try and go with the 30-70 ratio, which is like 30% high frequency like this and 70% areas of rest like this area. Let's see if I can copy and paste this. Cool story. All right. So for example, just so we can match the gradients, just do this. Kind of matches, not all the way. And then we'll bring this down. So you can see the details there, right? But I would really kind of push away from this type of stuff. What is, oh, I'm like, what is going on? Because you just, those types of details aren't adding any kind of function and are just kind of adding the noise there. If you need detail to go a little bit further there, I would just take this type of information and just move it a little bit further forward. These make sense to me. This looks like function. There's something happening there for a reason. And again, I think these are just those just need to be about half of what you would expect them to be. These are mode switches, right, for safety. So I imagine that's this piece here feels strange on the perspective, but it might have to do with the shape of the weapon. Yeah, other than that, I mean, it looks pretty cool to me. These could probably be even as well. You just want these to be right. Let's see if we can. And then you take up the same space, but just keeping them even. Where you put bullets. Ah, wait. I see. Dang, I guess I need to see this in like action. Get someone to make it, man. I think design wise though, it's pretty cool. And also, I'm not a weapons artist, so don't. I'm just looking at the overall composition of the detail. Design wise, I think it looks pretty rad. And any of the feedback that. Hey, see you later. Thanks for coming by. Yeah, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this, but essentially, I like the gun, and I think it would look pretty cool as 3D. Maybe a top view could help with like being able to break down this type of weapon. But yeah, knowing where to load, I guess, could cause could cause some issues if you can't see it from the side. Because I guess when you go to load it, you want to feel the gun to know where to shove the shells into. But yeah, nice. I like the design. I don't have too much else to say on it, I don't think. Is it Chantel? Orion? How you doing? I almost just gave you ownership of the Discord. That would have been funny. Hi Jeremy. I haven't figured out how to make proper renders yet, so currently it's just screenshots. I still wanted to get some feedback on how the overall prop looks and how the textures look. I wanted it to be game ready and prop eventually. Any ideas how I could push it? Here's a reference. Nice, that's a cool reference. Yeah, see, these are those views so that whoever's modeling it can make sense of it, right? What? Holy, that thing's huge. Ownership. This thing's really big. Is it a screenshot directly from Painter? I think so. I mean, it looks like it. Very Art Deco, definitely. I mean, if it's magically advanced, Tim, what's up, man? Doing Sword Timber. What a great name. It's got some Dishonor vibes. I'm trying to make sense of the scale because there's like knobs on there. There's like a little hook and a little ear piece for you to listen while I guess you talk here, right? So if we look at this scale wise, so right now I feel like this is maybe a little big. But I mean, it's really hard to tell. One thing that I'm noticing is the kind of wobbliness in the shape. So if you look at we get in here. So there's some like this curve here. Whoop. This curve here. Third time's a charm. You ready? So this curve here and this one here kind of vary in thickness in strange ways, which is the way that it was modeled, I guess. Looking at like the diameter of that, let me see on the concept. I think in the concept it's pretty consistent. So it's really about following that shape, right? So if we scroll in and zoom in on here, wow, this is a great concept for doing this type of stuff. You can see it's pretty uniform. Any wobble in there is probably an artist not intended, I guess is the way to say it. We should just go down here and connect here. We're going for 100. What? Tobias, how you doing, man? But yeah, right now the gold doesn't really feel like gold, right? Um, some stuff that you're going to want to look at is, or bronze. I don't know if it's a bronze or a gold, but looking at this type of material and really pushing that that reflectivity through their roughness. 100 months. You're going for that 100 months. Oh my god. Yeah, so there's a little bit of wobbliness there. The details here are more textural that it looks like you've added. Let me see if there's another way to, was this modeled in and then baked to it, or did you do that in the texture? It looks like it was done in the texture. Oh, it's brass. That would make sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, see these details here, I would model that instead of, it looks like you'd painted it in, all texture. I would model that, and then because of the scale, especially if you were playing as a character, this would actually be modeled. And then the pattern in the back would be a tiling texture. That would be close to the model. And then with the size of this thing, I would say blocking out some simple shapes on the inside that you can't really make out would probably be the way to go about it. But I would say to just continue forward and just work on the texturing and learn from these critiques and feedback and apply that kind of thought process into the next piece, right? I don't think going back and reworking things is now that you're this far along is a good idea, just because it kind of feels bad to just have to go back and redo some stuff and then re-texture things. And if you really want it to be good, though, I would do it. But just continue on. I would look at this and understand what makes brass look like brass and how brass ages and where it's still reflective and where it's not. I would watch out for these hard edges here. And then in the future, I wouldn't do these with masks, especially for an asset this large. You're gonna want to you're gonna want that detail to be present to the player, right? Like all of these, I would say get modeled in, just because it's so big. Especially since you're modeling these details in. If you wanted to follow the rule of like this being a texture, these would be textured as well, right? They wouldn't be actual geometry. Yeah, look at your roughness pass, and I mean maybe even go in and bevel these edges so they're a little rounder. They don't have to be super round, but you don't want to be a razor sharp edge either, right? But yeah, also that link Ghost messaged you with is really good. It definitely helps. That's it. It's the LUT controls to try and match to engines. Oh, you've got some other angles here. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, see the dirtiness doesn't really have a logic to it, or like where it's dirty and where it's not. These hard edges are really kind of like pulling you away from the softer beveled edges on the inside here. Whereas if you just modeled all of it, I think you wouldn't experience that. It's a little bit better here. This isn't as hard to understand. And I think with the size of the asset, this could be a modeled piece. That could be model detail for sure. I like these. These look good. And I understand what you're trying to do here. So it's just a matter of understanding the scale. And don't be afraid to add edges in here to round that out, to make it smoother. You can have less edges in here and then more here if you want as well. Where they're at in the inside here, maybe they need one or two more. And then with this one, I would double it at least. Again, the size of it allows you to go quite a bit. And then this back view, understanding how the wood is put together and where nails or screws or whatever's holding the wood pieces together would work. Because right now it's just a solid material, right? there's no way to understand like how pieces, like if there's a little flap here with like the little piece that slides over and holds it in place, those are all details that need to be present in order to make sense out of how the thing is put together. Even an instruction manual type thing, or like a outlet thing that goes out and plugs into something. There's all these little logical details that are missing. Yeah, beveling these would help. But yeah, let me see if I can like if you search back of a clock, there's some pretty good examples of like just stuff that happens on the side that no one sees, right? Of course, this sticks out, so it has to be a little bit away from the wall. Let's see if I can find another. Yeah, old back of a clock. Let's see if I can copy this image. Nope. Cool. Time for a screenshot. Let's go. Oh, I can't paste in that. Okay, there we go. So either holes or like these types of details. If it's wood, I mean that's a little different, right? But the idea kind of runs the same, where you have information that kind of tells you there's something going on inside, and stuff is being held up by whatever's connected to the back. But yeah, hopefully that was helpful. It's a pretty cool asset. It's really interesting what people come up with in concept. Never would have thought of a giant phone that big. Is it Krithu? Is that how you say that? Krithu? Or should I say Ryan? Ryan? Someone say a megaphone. True. Ryan works, yeah. Yeah, I saw you just renamed yourself. I was hoping to get some general feedback on this piece if possible. Any comments are hella appreciated. Dude, I hella got you. So, aware of the lack of story and emotion, gonna hone in on that for the next piece. Dynasty hella got us all. uh, oh, that's funny. Yeah, so okay. I need to understand what's happening here. So you blocked it out, you rendered it. Render already looks pretty interesting, pretty cool. And then you painted on top of it. Is that what I'm gathering from this? You from the NorCal, man? Can you surf? Dude, people thought I could surf when I moved here. And I was like, nah. Nah, I just talk like this. Hello photo textures. Dude, I feel you. Yeah, no one surfs in North Cali, but you know. You can't surf? Reed leaves room. Oh man. So this looks pretty cool. I think the land, the mountains in the background feel a little strange. It's probably just my mind making it up, but it feels like the trees are pointing here. I don't know if you see that. Whoa, that's a zoom in. That's a zoom in. Okay. Do you see what I'm talking about? It looks like they're all pointing around here. And then over here, they just like... It's like I've stolen their normal direction and just forced them to look. I mean, there's some. So first of all, this is really cool. The time of day is really interesting. I'm not really seeing this kind of warmth in this area. Like we're not really seeing like the warm lighting here. Um, Catching on like anything that it can. You know, that sun, man. It's coming in hot. Big storm, definitely. There's some. I mean, yeah. Man, I'm breaking all my rules today. I'm just painting in red on everything. Oh my gosh. Um, Overall, pretty interesting, pretty cool. I don't know if these are like. I don't know what these are. Like the landing gear on this thing is very strange. I don't know if that's a thing that it rests on or whatnot. That guy is just covered in lights. The characters feel strange to me. Like the scale wise, they kind of feel a little funky. Yeah, it's a concept over the top of a a render. I think if you're going for these placing characters in your software, ZBrush and Keyshot, dude, that's what you're like modeling in. That's kind of crazy. I would bring in characters that have like their proper proportions and scale, because then you can just paint over the top of that. You know what I mean? Um, the backdrop here is actually more interesting to me than what ended up in the concept. I think if you went more extreme with that, like let's see here, let's go in here. Let's line that up. Yeah, so if this backdrop line was more up here, right? And then came down, it's all everything is just like pointing to this ship, right? And this guy's looking that way. Everyone's like, "Oh, dude, look at this ship. So sick. Such a sick ship." And this guy's like, "Yeah, try being this close." Um this guy's trying to imitate the other guy and saying that he's cool, but he's, like, this guy's dumb. No, dude, he's actually working on the ship. Poser. But yeah, I think compositionally it's more about like you're focusing on this. I understand what you're saying about there not being much story, but I mean at the same time, I mean it looks like people are getting ready to take off to go somewhere, right? Just need some story, and I think it'd be all right. But it's understanding your lighting scenario, and then really kind of these characters just feel very strange, proportion wise. He's not light, dude. You like the this one more? This this angle is pretty interesting, like position wise. Man, I would bring this ship even closer. Get rid of this guy and just bring this right up in front of you. You know, they are literal clones. Try shifting the left character a bit. The foreshortening and the angle of him doesn't really work for his right arm. See, and I think that they're actually there's proportion issues with the character. But the overall mood and the image that you've got going on here is pretty cool. It just needs that tightening up, that push for the detail. And I think starting with proportions and then ending with understanding the lighting scenario you're in. Find some photos of what it looks like when the sun's this low and the sky is that red, and look at what it does to the environment. I think that's probably the best advice I could give. I'm just gonna kill some of these. Boop, 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 boop. Let's see what we got going on here. Okay. Alice. Alice. I made a block out a few weeks back and hated it. So I did a sketch / paint over and remade the block out with level critique on it, shape and composition. Oh, so it's a very rough, yikes. Okay, so the first image is the sketch, right? Is this the paint over of this? Is that what we're looking at here? I love these types of rocks, by the way. It's me. It is you. First is the paint over of the old one. It is very WoW vibes, not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. So this angle is showing, it's trying to show a ton, right? Wait, hang on. No, come on. Why? Just let me copy the image. I'm gonna get angry, guys. You want to see an angry Din? Want to see Din get mad? You think it's possible? Oh, it's so high res too. Ah. No, I can't copy the image. Freaking. All right, we're going in. Come on. It's like a little game. Okay. Angry Din. Din needs a haircut. Ah. Oh, please tell me these even line up. Okay. So the whole back area there, I really like that. That's super cool now, this whole area here. So you have the symmetry of the towers, right? You've got a tower here and a tower here. Actually, let's just brain. So there's a tower here, there's a tower here. And I know you want that symmetry, and then you're trying to break the symmetry with a detail that's not very seen. It feels weird to me that this is broken and then this comes out of it. Like, did that come after this castle thing? Are these flowing lines coming from the same? Are these the same? They are the same. Same color. Same. I mean, the gate design I like a whole lot more. I don't think you need other entrances when everyone should be, going through the gate. I think instead of breaking this out, I had to integrate it or build it in. So it looks like it's all part of the design. That there's something going on there, man. I like the idea of the stuff being pushed back into the distance. It's weird to me that there's only the one gap to get across. And I feel like this would be maybe more interesting if there was Let me think for a second here. A couple of segments, and then maybe this. Brain, you got this. Do you know what I'm saying? And you had all that space in between to like play with the lighting and the. Yeah, it can be stepping stones. Like some of these can be higher or lower, and the fog is just passing through them like it is here. I mean, of course, you would have your these going down like this, right? Let's go all in here. Um, let's just mask this. Right. So if those are like dipping into the fog, then you start to get these caps, and they can be made out of these I forget what they're called, but these are super cool. But going with this look, getting that feeling through here of separate pieces that you're like, you'd have to hop and treacherous basalt. Thank you, man. They harvest the crap out of this stuff in a town right next to my hometown. There's so much of it. You can be driving down a road and it's just basalt on your right and left for over an hour. But I think breaking those pieces up is pretty interesting, and it allows for these like smaller ones to help make sense of them. Um, you do have some that are floating in the distance here, and I think adding some floating elements, maybe even just in the fog that are moving up and down. You sound basalty about it. I can't help it, okay? You can have some that are barely peeking through the fog, you know? I wonder if I can fake that. Hang on. If you had like this, right? And then you like this one's peeking through the fog. Let's give it a mask. And yeah, and then we'll unlock that mask and then we'll just do this. So it can literally like, oh, come on. It can be doing this. Some of them floating around, going into the fog and then coming back through, and super cool. Darksiders vibes for sure. Vibing, I feel it. I'm gonna be really curious to see this smoky, liquidy stuff and how you do that. I'm really curious. But I wouldn't overthink the design and the logic of this building, and really just kind of focus on the gate. I mean, I think if we were looking, if this was Blizzard, right, they wouldn't even have, this would not be here, right? They would just have the gate, right? I think they would just have the gate, and then they would have they'd have all these elements behind it. Ugh. Ugh. Um, let's see here. Can I just do right? I think that's what would be going off if it was Blizzard. And then like all of this would be the rock stuff going off into the distance. You've got these things, and of course we can't make it the same as what we're seeing on the other side, but then this kind of goes into this thing, and then you can have your little these pouring out of the just like in the background. Blah, right? But yeah, I think they would really like if you wanted to go for that wow look, you would I would go with that. Definitely push these shapes and just let it breathe. Let it be there. Let it be there just chilling. Anywho, I'm just kind of going crazy now. But this is pretty cool. I like the gate design. You think about too, if you get all that separation, man, then the dragons really can like pop out, right? You can get those wings just coming out like crazy. You're just wow, way out there. Anywho, sorry. Do your thing. I like the idea. I think the building in the background is distracting you from the gate. There's a game dev category now? Get out of town. Are you serial? Amrit, how you doing? A pleasure. Yeah, I mean, it could be toned down or remove it. Software and game development, bro. Consider us switched. Okay. Okay. Uh, let's check out this next one. Wondering how I can improve my artwork more. You know, sometimes people post stuff, and I'm like, I wonder how I can make Din feel bad about himself. This is pretty sick. Laser sight shotgun? I mean, there's only one way to be sure. Zoltan rude. Oh man, classic. Yeah, Resident Evil 4 had a laser sight on a shotgun. This looks pretty sick. I would say the wood grain feels a little warpy here. Maybe looking at the scale or the type of detail that's going on here. Polygon, that sounds like a electrocution death just waiting to happen. Hmm. I mean, the weapon is looking pretty sick. There's some, the details here feel a little shallow compared to the details on the wood material here. I would look at I don't know what you're rendering this in, but maybe a clear coat shader would look pretty slick on that. What else are we looking at here? And then the pieces that you've added on don't feel like they're as aged. Maybe you've just added those. There's a seam towards the left of the stock. Is there? You mean this? This might be silly, but do shotguns need sights? Yeah, for the people who can't see. Right, Paul? Right? Right, Paul? That makes sense, doesn't it? Paul? Paul? Okay. Yeah, I think looking at your roughness and the wood grain and really identifying the surfaces that you're looking at. Do you have a reference with this? I guess maybe I should click on the let's look at this. Because there's a bunch of guns in here. Advanced weapon pack. I mean, that's a pretty advanced shotgun if it's got laser sights on it. Man, that's tough. So the execution of the asset's quite good. The poly count might be a little low here. But it's the wood grain and the materials that we're looking at. and really understanding the materials that you're trying to get here, because they just don't feel, they feel a bit more stylized than they do like ultra realistic, if that makes sense. Defcon says that he thinks the renders don't do credit to the model and textures, but who knows? He's still learning. 3D looks good, yeah. A bit low for some weapons, yeah. Yeah, you are correct, I think, Defcon. I would take a second look at reference and see if you can match those materials. Weapons can be like characters almost, right? Yeah, I think getting some character on there would really help. They are pretty close to the screen. I would like to see some other views of it as well. Give them an identity. Yeah, some character where it's like, okay, this is, I wrap this part with my with gauze, and like there's fingerprints in areas and they look used and beat up, so scratches in some areas that make sense, and like there's some aging that's happening here that's really nice. And I can see it in both. So this is literally an attachment, right? Because this is the same model, but with an attached extended barrel and an attached butt of the gun. Am I right? That's right. Like this is attached. Did you know what's crazy is I did not even notice that until I realized that this scratch was the same scratch. That's quite interesting. Yeah, focusing on the rendering and pushing the storytelling and texture learning in general, IRL, PBR. Yes, 100%. Pretty cool though. Pretty cool. Davis, we got more guns. You guys, if you want some gun feedback, there might be some war dog action happening soon. Those guys will give you a run for your money when it comes to feedback. But this looks pretty cool. There's some character in this, the tape and stuff. Let's click on some other ones. Any thoughts would be appreciated. Whoa, those are some. Okay, so modeling wise looks all right. Modeling looks pretty good. I mean, I'm not a weapons artist, of course. I don't know about that clip. That pattern feels a little strange to me, but that might be a thing. I like the addition of the tape and the strap type details. It's a perfect opportunity to have some different roughness types, right? So that you get that variation in there. And then the fact that you have a different material feeling here versus here and here, that's really nice. I think when it comes to, oh, this one's cute. I think when it comes to the way these are textured, it's really about looking at your PBR values and understanding what is made out of what and how it gets damaged and aged and worn down. Because this just feels like it's been dirtied, not like used and cleaned and used and cleaned. Yeah, the generated DStat has a comment about the generated. Hi, what is the channel of the Discord? If you go to that website, you can join the Discord, and then if you look in the announcements channel, you can see the link to the critiques. We still got about 30 minutes of critiques, and I think you will be able to get some critique in if you would like, Manic. Hope you're doing well, and welcome. How you doing, Davis? Yeah, we're looking at your weapons. Ooh, getting that zoom in. So the text is really close to the edge of this line. That's a little... That starts to get my tangent triggers going, you know? So make sure to give text or any types of details kind of room to breathe from other details. Like that A on the USA and the little edge there for the safety and the semi and auto. Like that's so close. I don't think they would author it that way. Tape looks a little strange in the way it's wearing. And then yeah, the wear, like DStat was saying in chat, the wear in the roughness feels a little generated, or like a lot of people would say procedural, and that's not the like what you would want to. It's not what you would want to call it, right? But it looks like there's not really as much logic to it because of the way that it was applied. Should be wear on the top of the carrying handle in front of the magazine as well. So there's some feedback. And also these openings, if you're gonna commit to those, you got to commit with the geometry too, you know what I mean? Ooh, DEF CON. Yeah, so just a little FYI, if you need some weapons help, DEF CON actually, was it last Monday? Or was it this Monday? Made a weapons library. Oh man, it's got the banner now too. Dude, spicy. So if you go in here, you can look at all types of reference for most guns. I'm just gonna minimize these because they eat up your frame rate. But you can search the guns on the side here, and then Control F if you need to search last one. Fingerprints and roughness would be cool. Yeah, get that oil in there. Suppressors, gun template, suppressors, muzzle flash, Dragunov. Ooh. You added the M16A1 Vietnam era photos. M16 A1 Vietnam photos. There we go. There we go. There's a .rar file if you want to. Is that linked in the Discord somewhere? Yeah, just do !weapons, I think is the that'll give you the link. It's part of the Empire Command. It's if you go down here, Empire University, and then in here, which is the thing we're slowly building on, there's a weapons library in here, but there's all types of stuff we're building out, like trying to get all the like the base stuff in. But there's a ton of stuff in here. And that weapon collection is freaking spicy, man. People are even donating to you, DEF CON now. They're donating references. So look at the poly count here and really like try and get, I'd up-res that. Get that going for sure. And yeah, I think you can see the roughness here. This highlight doesn't really, like, I don't know what this material is. But overall, I feel like the modeling is pretty good. Again, not a weapons expert, but looks pretty cool. Let me copy this link real quick. Okay. And the selection of assets you've made is pretty cool. DEF CON, like the weapons before, I'd say in general 3D is great. I would focus on PBR and texturing. It looks a bit procedural right now and not alive, quote unquote, if I can say that. Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. It's understanding the materials and how they wear and what the material types look like when they wear. But yeah, nice stuff. Nice stuff. Let's keep going here. Let me scroll down here a bit. Tobias, we got you, man. So it's really interesting. This render versus the turntable is such a different. What is this rendered in, Tobias? Is it Tobias or Tobias? That's my question. The still image is iRay and Painter. The others are Marmoset. That explains a whole lot. Tobias. Tobias, all right. All right, it's Tobias. Background is kind of harsh. Yeah, I mean, in this render, I would put something back there or blur an environment. Um, you did some pretty good integration with the sticker here. When I look at the tire, it feels a little soft in the detail that's there. Let me see if there's a. Yeah, see these ones are the real time renders, right? And I saw the comments about the paint, the painted metal. Do you happen to have a roughness render? Tobias. Yeah, do you happen to have like a roughness pass? You can get one. 1 second. You said one's Marmoset, right? Let me see here. Just make sure. And the others, yeah, other one's Marmoset. So Marmoset is using gloss, right? So maybe it'll be a little bit different. Oh, nice. Okay, cool. Right, so the top piece is supposed to be painted metal, right? Is there any metal exposed on this, on the top part? Because there's a whole lot of storytelling going on in the roughness, which is really good. This one looks upside down, but this might be because you're reusing it somewhere. That could be the case. So when you paint it on one the correct way, it goes up on the other one. Um, because everything's quite similar. I mean, there is some nice overall variation with the. So like you paint. How would I word this? You in Substance Painter, you're gonna create a lot of material groups, right? Where you're like, okay, this is painted metal. This is like exposed metal. This is plastic. This is rubber. Um, make those groups, and then you get this kind of aging and dirtiness to all of it, right? But then in those groups at the top level, you should have a way to push the overall roughness range up and down so you can kind of rearrange where your roughness values are at overall for that material type without losing too much of the information or detail in there, right? For the metal on the tank, it's pretty much rust coming through rather than metal. Okay. So if that's so this is supposed to be rust. Like looking at how rust forms and how it moves around in the space, you're getting the rust really well done here and on these pieces. But when it comes to the rust here, it feels like it's on top and it's happening more of like scratches versus like actually eating away. Because what happens with metal that's painted on top of, right, is when it does rust under the metal, it actually rusts under the metal, or sorry, under the paint. So when it rusts, the paint's not rusting, it's the metal, right? So once it starts to rust under the paint, that's when you can start getting the bubbling of paint. And then when the paint peels away, then you see the rust. And then the paint damage can actually peel away further to start exposing more metal. It doesn't always happen like that. The other way is if paint gets scratched away, exposes metal, and then the metal begins to rust, and then from there it starts to peel away. The end result is the paint peels away as the rust kind of breaks the metal down that the paint was holding on to, right? And I don't get a paint feeling from the roughness here. It's really shiny, and trying to smooth out the surface of that paint is probably what will make the paint feel more accurate, as well as the roughness being kind of tuned a bit more. It actually is probably more rough than you think. It might also be a case of the way that the scene is being affected by the HDR on the asset. But yeah, and see what else we got going on here. These bolts, I don't know if they're the same color as this surface here. They might be a different. Right now, they're quite light by comparison, right? Let's see if we can. In this render, it looks pretty nice. This button looks dope, by the way. You're getting enough variation in there. Yeah, just really, it really needs to be exaggerated, I think. Um, well, not necessarily exaggerated, but it needs to be tuned a bit more because you can see how the highlight there is quite diffused, whereas here it's like pretty sharp. Like this feels almost like it's wet, but then the text isn't wet. Like what's that text made out of? Because that text has a roughness value that's much closer to like if we look at it here, you can see that the text has a roughness value that makes it quite chalky looking. Let me see if we can do this. So when you look at the value of this material, I'm just gonna copy it and no. I'm like, what? There we go. Okay. I'd probably put the plastic more along the lines of that range. Maybe even more. Maybe something like that. Let me see if because you can see even with like it at its the brightest points are still the same value as that. And if you look at what that's doing in the roughness here, that would mean that your highlights or like where you're most rough on the edges is going to be that diffused in the roughness. Oh yeah, yeah, you could, Paul. But I mean, I think the modeling is fine. You could emphasize the little shapes on the tire a little bit more, and then I would just focus on material texturing. Try and get those materials to tune right. This area here feels pretty nice. This area feels really smooth. DEFCON needs to use those too. Because right now, I think the only issue is the texturing. In some areas, it feels really like this area is feeling pretty good, but it could still use a lot of like micro variations and just building up the storytelling. But I would start with these bars and this paint. Once you get those in line, everything else will probably start to come together. Yeah, it's this, and then I'm seeing these are really smooth, and I just makes me think that the roughness on them is just too light. So it just kind of feels like the material's not right for it. Like down here, this feels pretty good, and there's a nice highlight there. What is this generator called? Um, this is gonna be a pretty nice asset in the end, I think, Tobias. Some oil or gas spills could make some interesting roughness as well. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Definitely. Bring in some tunes here so you guys know what time it is. Which is one of the main references. DeWalt DA. Okay, let's see here. Get an image up here. Man, that's a cool asset. Okay, open a new. Okay, let's bring this over. So, I don't think this is the exact same model, but we need the exact same model, don't we? It's Maru time. Is that what it is? Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Or it's the main like inspiration. Okay, let's yeah. Let's pull from this then. Please just paste. Yeah, sick. Okay, and then other one, please. Grab this one's a good one. Please just paste. Yes. Yes. Hey, thank you for that follow. How you doing? We're on the tail end of our stream here, and then we're gonna go and raid another channel if they are indeed streaming. I have no idea if they're planning to stream or not. They should be up in about 6 minutes. Hey, Burgos Games, you have a great day. Thanks for hanging out. It's always a pleasure to say hello to someone. Okay. If those words I just said did not sound very Bob Ross, then I don't know what does. But okay, so you can see this highlight here, very, very subtle, quite broad, and the color, right? If you can get your model to look like this and then dirty it up, that's the gold. That's the gold, right? And you can see how shiny this is. It's just like what you're working on up here. This is a very dark metal, isn't it? It must be what, plated or coated in a. Either way, let's keep looking at this, because I think you've got different roughness profiles in here. You've got some metals, some other rubber materials, some tubing, and I think in here there's the opportunity for those differences, right? And I don't think it's not shown enough in the reference, but getting some differences between these pieces, that's where it comes in. And is that supposed to be like a tape or a label? If that's a label, I would suggest putting the label on a texture sheet. I can give you the playlist. I'd put those labels on a texture sheet with alpha and then place them as decal. The yellow metal seems to be less rough. Seems to be less roughness in real life. You mean less roughness as in less shiny? Or more rough? Maybe scratch the plastic under very slightly too. Less shiny. Yeah, so more diffused in the... You can see it's pretty diffused. You can see the highlight on the tire. Of course, this tire is getting pretty dirty, but I think looking at the roughness on the tire might be something to look into as well. It's close, man. It's once I'm so late. Afternoon. How you doing? We're getting ready to get out of here, but it's all good. It's good to see you. I would say this asset is so close to done, and it's just a matter of like working on the materials and really bringing them home. You know what I mean? Like this battery, where it's connected. What happens here? There's always like battery acid damage. There's gotta be, there we go, some like chalking and let me see if we can, maybe not too crazy, you know, but yeah, this is not a great reference of it, but let's see here. So like you can see how like this kind of powdery stuff kind of forms there. You can get that type of detail in here, and you can see how much text is on these things. Instead of putting it into the texture, I would put it in the same texture set as I was suggesting you put these ones in, and then just go and like float those planes in here with alpha. Just get that in there. The corrosion, yes, that aging. See if you can take some elements and give them a different metal profile. That could be quite interesting. These feel like they should be welded around the edge, if I had to be picky. Oh man, I'm so much better. No more headache. But do you feel like we've beaten you up enough, Tobias? Dude, this music though. It's so chill. I'll link this in here. So you have the I mean you probably have a ton of references to this stuff by now, but it's relatively high res. But yeah. It's 9:59. It is 9:59. We're about to get out of here. And Ole is saying that the War Dog stream is on. Shall we raid them? We gotta raid them. Make them feel the love. You know what I mean? Force happiness. No, don't do that. That's terrible. Generate real happiness. Real happiness. No, thank you guys for posting work. I was like, oh man, is anyone gonna post anything? It's kind of quiet, and then the critique, and then the flood, just the right amount. Just the right amount. Anyways, let's give some love to War Dog. I will see you guys on Monday, where we will continue the alien infestation. What is this fabled happiness? Zoltan, you know. Zoltan, I think you're gonna like this channel we're about to raid though, if you've not been there yet. It's your cup of tea, I can feel it. Tell him too. Tell him I said that. Dynasty said that this is my cup of tea. Is it true? And then watch the response. Watch the response. All right, guys. I'll see you on Monday. Have a good weekend if I don't chat with you. And yes, there's the Discord. We just launched new challenges, so enjoy, and I'll see you guys later.